Hi, it's Tech Pixies, and this is your host, Joy Foster. It's the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. We are delighted that you are listening. I have a very special guest on today, Claire Louise Wood. I'm so grateful to her for telling her story. At Tech Pixies, we tell a lot of stories of women who, for all different phases and walks of life. But I want to bring Claire Louise on because in my view, and I think this is true from speaking with her and seeing her progress over time, that she is someone who's taken tragedy and turned it into a way for her to move forward and to give back. And she's just done this in such an elegant and beautiful way. And I think we work a lot of times with women who are sort of perimenopausal, postmenopausal, and we haven't spent a lot of time talking about other types of challenges that women have faced in life earlier on, and how it affects them later. So, Claire Louise, I want to just first of all acknowledge you. Thank you for coming on. I know this isn't an easy topic to talk about, but also I know that even if one person listens in their life, which I know there'll be more, but if their life is positively impacted by your message today, that we've done our job. So thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about, why don't you just tell your story in the way that you want to tell your story?
Yeah, so in 2020, I found out I was pregnant, which was a shock because I'd had a previous ablation, intrametrial ablation. So it was statistically impossible for me to get pregnant. I found out I was pregnant. Obviously, you can imagine the fears, the anxiety that went with that. And then because of the ablation, I'd had like extra testing, diagnosis scans and things. And on one of the scans, they picked up something that they wasn't quite sure on. They originally thought it was a bicornate womb, which is like a heart-shaped womb. So they'd sent me in for an MRI as an inpatient, and unfortunately at the time they had to have several. I was like, I was going home, I was staying, everything was okay, baby was fine, and then in the next one it was, we're bringing a top specialist in to look at your results, we're not 100% sure. And they found that I had what they call an intramural pregnancy, which is where the baby grows within the muscle of your womb, and it's completely separated from, like, the cavity and the fallopian tubes and everything. It's rare. I think there's been less than 100 cases of it. Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, I was 16 weeks pregnant, so it was really hard. There was no chance of survival for the baby, unfortunately, and there was less than 20% chance of survival for me if I continued with the pregnancy.
Wow.
Yeah. So obviously I had a really hard decision, and it was around the COVID time as well. So I was in hospital alone. The only time I got to see my partner, because it was a decision we both needed to be a part of. The only time I got to see him was when I left the hospital and went and sat in the garden, sort of thing. So it was really, really hard, but everybody said the same. I wanted to go through with it. I think as a mum, you do, don't you? I'll face it. The baby's got to 16 weeks. It's meant to be, but obviously everybody else, I have my other children. There was no coming out of it, you know. So unfortunately, I had to make the decision to have what they call a compassionate induction, which is a termination for medical reasons. And it also resulted in a total hysterectomy, which again was even harder. So obviously dealt with all that and still dealing with it today. We had a little boy. We was able, although he was still below the 20 weeks, so we couldn't register his birth. He was born. I delivered him, but we couldn't register his birth. But we could register his death. So we did manage to have like a service for him with the funeral home and everything. So that was a step that we needed, kind of thing. So yeah, and from then I've been thrown into menopause. I've recently, this last Saturday, had surgery to correct some scarring that they left behind from the operation, and yeah, it's just one thing after another lately.
Yeah, so you've been on a major journey, of loss and a health journey as well for, having to recover from it personally, but not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. It's not just the scarring that happens from the surgery, but it's the scarring that happens emotionally. Um, but there's a silver lining in this story, and I just find your ability to go through that and find the silver lining and come out the other side incredible. So let's talk about the silver lining.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the funeral home that looked after Ruben, um, me and my family did a lot of fundraising for SANS, and obviously we used Facebook, Instagram, as a means to push it out there. Did really, really well, and I'd remained friends with the funeral home and the team there, really close to my heart, and they asked me if I would help them with their social media, which was a massive thing. It came on a day where I'd had a bit of a mental breakdown. I thought I couldn't go on. I'd been to the doctors, I'd been open with them, been put on medication and everything. So I'd gone from the doctors straight to the funeral home because they was like, "We want to talk to you." And then they offered me that, and yeah, it was massive. So I came home and just carried on with life and, did what I could, searched for courses, found Tech Pixies, and
Well,
I don't
but I just want to, this is such an incredible part of the story. So you'd gone to the doctor, you're getting support for your own mental health, and then the funeral home wants to talk to you and they want you to come and do their social media.
yeah,
So you started doing the social media for the funeral home, which was so interesting because when you did find Tech Pixies and you were going through the boot camp, I say to people like, what kind of social media are you working on? It's like I'm working on a funeral home, and it was really interesting because there's some, it's an interesting topic to talk about on social media because it can be very triggering and can be very challenging to navigate. And so that's really so that led you on a journey of I'd like to get some more training in social media. And then you found the social media superhero boot camp, which we run, on a consistent basis at Tech Pixies. So techpixies.com/boot camp is where you can go to sign up. So you did the boot camp, and so tell us what sort of happened for you. You did the boot camp, and how's that impacted your life?
yeah, massively. I say it every time I'm on video, this is just the biggest impact. I would never, ever, ever have dreamed going back to boot camp and the homework. And there was one piece where you'd said, do a 1 minute live video in the group. And uh, honestly, the nerves I felt that day were horrific. They really were. I stumbled. I don't even think I said the right things. And the confidence and the support that I got from everybody was just, it was amazing. Like, yourself, the team, Catherine behind the emails and things. It's just the support and the life coaching and everything was just huge. And like I said, it's brought me to here, which, yes, was still nervous and, palms are still very sweaty, but I'm here and I'm doing it. 6, 7 months ago, I think it was. I'd have said no straight off. There would not have even been that, you know, back and forth conversation between us. So it's helped so much. My mental health is improving day on day on. It's I can't even put it into words what it means to me.
Well,
Crying.
you've been an incredible student, right? And one of the things I say is if you show up and you do the work, it works. And you do. You show up and you do the work. So you went through the boot camp, and then what we say at the boot camp during the boot camp. I mean, Tech Pixies is a social enterprise. We have been one from day one. We care just as much about personal development for people who come from challenging financial backgrounds and other situations. That's why we have our scholarship program. So you applied for a scholarship. And were you, I mean, was that like, yes, I'm going to apply for it? Or did you have second thoughts before you applied for it? Like sometimes I talk to people who applied for scholarships and they're like, I really struggled with even getting to myself to the point where I told myself I deserved the scholarship and like went forward with it. Was that you, or were you like, yep, I'm going to apply for it?
No, that was definitely me. I applied for it. I think I applied for it quite quickly. I remember dropping you an email and being like, "Oh my god, I didn't put everything on the form," And but I I had to force myself to do it because yeah, I didn't think I was worthy of it. It was a massive thing, and Tech Pixies was such an inspiring community that I didn't, I felt I didn't deserve to be a part of that. And again, that's another massive change for me because I can now finally say, I do deserve to be a part of it. And like you said, it's the story. Everybody has a story to tell, and if my story can touch just one person, then I'm doing what I should be doing. And I think that's the importance, and that is why I am glad that you have the sponsorship in place, and I am glad that I scholarship, and I'm glad I applied for it.
Well, and I'm glad you did too. And I think the thing is what we find is when people do the application for it and they go through the process, we obviously believe very strongly that everyone who's willing to do the work deserves a chance. And about 40% of our students are on scholarships, and we have a real diverse community in the sense that it's not all one type of people. It's all different backgrounds, all different situations, and we find that actually that creates a really beautiful, thriving community as well. And you've become a leader in that community. Every week on Fridays, we have our Friday wins where we ask people to share a win. And you're like always one of the first ones. I think you have been traditionally the first one to get your win in. And we've had some new Tech Pixies who've been vying for that first spot, which of course you're so generous and lovely with them. So, one of the things we talk about is it's really important to capture your wins on a regular basis, because if you don't capture them, you don't see the progress you're making. And actually this morning you're part of our Dream Builder program as well. So you've done our vision workshop, which is a wonderful thing we do also on a regular basis. It's an opportunity to go deeper into your bigger vision of health and well-being, love and relationships, time, money, freedom, vocation, creative expression. So we kind of go into that vision workshop. So in Dream Builder, we talk about increasing your sense of deserving, expanding your self-image so that you can actually match it, right? Because if you can't outperform your self-image. But we were even talking about creating a success list today, putting that list together. And I was joking with you, so I was saying, well, if you just go through all the wins, you've got a bunch of them that you can pull off of your weekly wins. But it's actually scientifically proven that if you are capturing your wins as you go, you will be more successful because your brain starts to register that I am a success. And that's a really important thing. So what are some of your wins since you've so you started out volunteering, is it, for the funeral home as a social media manager? So what are your wins that have transpired since you've done the program?
So since then, obviously they're now paying me. It's not a full social media wage, but it's money coming in, which is more than I had. And because they're in the position of, they appreciate it so much, they're wanting to open up a position for me, but they're also willing to allow me to do my own business alongside that. They've given me an office, and things like that. And yeah, that's a massive win, knowing that that's going to come off. And I've
Yeah, that
also
they're not only supporting you in the role, but they want to see you expand as a person. I mean, I love this funeral home. I mean, they're amazing for how they've supported you, and obviously the way they helped you through your loss was also incredible. So we'd love to put in the show notes. We'd love to put information about them because they sound just incredible all around.
they are
That's
the
been the
most
win.
they're the most loving people ever. They really are. And I'm not just saying that because they really are. Obviously, anybody that's been through it, if you've got a 16-week-old baby that isn't legally registered, they're not seen in society as being born. So reaching out, I reached out to a few funeral homes in the area, and Hannah Rose was the one person that responded.
Wow, that's really interesting. So when you had reached out to the other funeral homes, they just didn't respond.
No,
That's
because
incredible.
it
They
sounds
didn't.
horrible, but they don't make money from it. you know.
Mm.
And the thing is, we never paid for anything. We had a casket made for him, and we was fully willing to pay for it, you know. And we'd gone in, and they'd received some sponsorship, if you like, from like another lady who had lost her daughter, and they contacted her and obviously told them our story, and she immediately offered to pay for Ruben's little casket.
Wow.
So
That
we never paid for anything.
that's incredible. But that speaks so much to that cycle of giving and receiving. And that's and just how they function as a company. So what other wins have you had as you've worked through all of this?
Um, this showing up is a huge win, facing my fears, and just learning, you know, getting back into the excitement of social media and the insights and things. And when I first started Tech Pixies, I knew what I was doing. I could do it, I could show you, but I couldn't explain that I could do it or how to do it. Whereas now I can. You know, I'm writing a blog every week. I have posts going out almost every day on Instagram and Facebook. You know, I'm receiving inquiries as well. They haven't quite got to the stage of accepting a proposal, but I'm receiving them. So, you know, it's a massive
And
step.
you're creating proposals and you're putting them out and you're pricing yourself correctly, like where you want to be paid. And I think that's the thing about a social media training course. So we have a social media management certification, which Claire Louise did. Not only did she do the 6 weeks, but she went and did the 12 weeks. So she did the full 18-week social media management certification. And you put together your plan, you executed your plan, you reported on your plan. I got to review your report, which was absolutely beautiful, very well done. And you had some incredible results in terms of social media. But also what I've seen you do as well is business development. You've been doing some additional things, not just social media. So talk about some of the other ideas that you've implemented, not just from the social media perspective, but looking at the business as a whole.
So yeah, as you say, business development, which I didn't know was a thing until you told me. So I go out, connect with other people. I see ideas, I have visions, and I don't feel limited to this. Although I am a social media manager, I don't feel limited to that. So if I have an idea for a business, I'm going to tell you. If you accept it, you accept it. If you don't, you don't. But you know, I am very lucky that the funeral home have accepted my ideas. They're very open and very grateful, obviously, for the support that we both give each other. And they've signed 7 care homes purely because I had a contact within a care home, and it's something they've been trying to do for months. So, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll send a message, you know. And it's true. It's not what you know, it's who you know in situations like that. So, you know, yeah, I did that. And there's the flower pot festival that I help volunteer for. It's a charity. They build flower pot designs and displays, and all throughout June they showcase them in the local area. So I'd done them a website for that, which I don't do. So don't approach me for website building because I hate it. But I did it for them.
But you've experienced it and decided that's not what I want to do.
And I don't want to do it. I just, it's not something I like. I can do it, but I don't enjoy it. That feels very much like work. We don't like that.
And there's something beautiful about finding work that doesn't feel like work, right?
Yeah.
It's not I don't want to work. It's I want to find work that is, that increases my, that I love showing up for, I love doing. And that's been, for me, that's been my journey, in the sense that a long time ago, I built social media training because I was a social media manager. But actually, as I've coached 850 women, I realized actually I'm a coach. And, I'm a transformational coach. And actually, I've leaned much more into that. And I've brought in coaches to carry on the social media coaching who have coached you and who you've loved working with, Sophie Bradley and, Marianne Avery and Abby Moore and V Roberts and, Juliet Addenbrook. We've got some amazing coaches at Tech Pixies who teach, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and also do our life coaching. So you've had that experience of being coached by all of our coaches. So we've built a community of coaches that really are passionate about what they're doing, and then I get to do the stuff I love. So I think it's very important that we do lean into work that doesn't feel like work. I think that's really, really, really important. Oh, brilliant. Well, I know you were nervous about doing this podcast. We had a conversation before. One of the things we talked about was how, when you're about to do something you're scared of, you face it. You say, okay, what am I scared of? What's coming up? Blah, 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 blah. And we even talked about like going down the, like, what's the worst that can happen? What's the best that can happen? But we also talked about, putting ourselves on the other side. Like, it all worked out. Like, the podcast goes great. You touch one person's life, everything works out. And then you bring that energy into the podcast. And that's one of the exercises you did before you came on. And, we've got 8 people, 10 people watching live. We've got lots of comments coming in here. All the coaches are wonderful, says Mandy Hughes. And of course, Philip Isles. Yes, Pip Isles. She's our social media management certification coach who was our Pinterest coach before. And there's some beautiful comments coming in here. Mandy Hughes, she said she applied for a scholarship and amazingly was accepted. She never dreamed she would get it. She was so grateful for it. She has special needs and a special needs little one, and is dyslexic. She says, thank you for my scholarship. I have felt so valued and included. Mandy here from cohort 21, she thinks, which she's right. She's from the cohort 21. But I love this. Sharon says, so inspiring working with the funeral sector and having technology as an Achilles heel. I can really relate. So Sharon, you understand where she's coming from. I love that. Tanya says, you, Claire, have taught her so much. And I love Jeremiah's comment. Help thy neighbors brings forth love thy neighbors and ends all evil. Yours truly, the beloved one. So I think we might be being crashed here by Jeremiah. But I do think that there is a point, though, what the energy we put out into the world, it comes back. And the funeral home helped you then helped them. It creates this cycle, and it's a beautiful cycle. And you had a partner in believing in that funeral home, and partners in believing are really important. People who really believe in your vision and the things that you would love to come to fruition in your life. So tell us now a little bit more about what the future holds in store. Like, if we have a conversation 3 years from now, what does life look like for you?
You mean the time machine? It's honestly, it's fantastic, and I've done this vision so much personally within myself. As you know, I struggle, and
up until now,
honestly, up until now, because I was hoping you asked me. It's my vision in 3 years' time is just, I can picture myself getting up in the morning, making myself coffee in my gorgeous big kitchen with this huge island, going outside and sitting and just watching the ocean. And that's as far as I get, because that is it. It's just peaceful. There is no anxiety. There is no physical struggles. And it's, the family are all still sleeping, which they usually do anyway. So that's not hard to envision. But, it's just, all I can feel in this vision is just peace. I have my home office, and I know that I'm going to it, and, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to do what I need to do. But then I'm going to have the rest of the day to just watch the view and just be me. It may sound silly, but to me, that's huge.
No, it's not silly. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. That vision looks beautiful on you. And what's going to be great is, I know I'm going to get a text message on WhatsApp one day, and it's going to be like it's going to be your coffee and it's gonna be the ocean behind, and that's like, and then also a picture of your amazing kitchen, because you do have some ideas of what that kitchen's gonna look like.
Oh, I can't wait.
I know. I love it. Well, this has been such a wonderful space. And I want what I want people to hear is there is life after tragic loss, and Claire Louise did have tragic loss in her life. And you can get through tragic loss, and you can come out the other side stronger. And as Claire Louise has. And she had some wonderful people in her life who supported her, but she also sought support. She also was willing to accept support, and she sought it out. And that's a wonderful place to be when you're okay with receiving support, and you're okay for reaching out for support. And she knew she needed it, and she leaned into that. And of course, that's what we're here at Tech Pixies. We're all about that. So people who need support, we love you. We want to support you. We want to help you. That is what we really are here for. So I am so grateful we found you. You found us. However we found each other, that all worked out. Anne Marie is watching. She says she also benefited from a scholarship. It's an amazing opportunity. And then she says, what a fabulous vision. I love that it finishes with just be me. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
It's been a while.
So did it all work out, Claire Louise? Did
Yeah. Definitely.
We talked about my favorite two quotes from two of my mentors. So Jennifer Allwood wrote a book called Fear is Not the Boss of Me. And in it, there's a quote that she says that confidence comes from doing things you're afraid of and realizing you didn't die. And right before we came on, you said, well, I know I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And then Amy Porterfield is another one of my favorite mentors. She said, if you don't have the confidence, grab the courage. So do you have your cup of courage with you? You do. I love it. Okay. So, and turn it around so people can see the other side as well. So this is Claire Louise's cup of courage. So at Tech Pixies, when you finish all your certification for our basic, so we have the foundations, and then we have social media management certification. When you finish your certification for the foundations, you then fill out a form, and we send you your personalized mug. And Claire Louise has always got her cup of courage with her, and I believe that very much. If you don't have the confidence, grab the courage. But also realizing that confidence comes from doing things that you've never done before and realizing you didn't die. So I am so grateful to you for sharing this story. I know it's going to touch the lives of many, many people, but we know even if it touches the life of just one person, we've done our job. Mandy Hughes says she loves the cup of courage. Yes, I think everyone loves the cup of courage. Anything you would like to any parting wisdom you'd like to share with our audience that might be listening on replay or watching live with us today?
Just do it. If I think you say it quite a lot, if a vision and a dream comes to you, then it's come to you for a reason. Tech Pixies showed up in my search that day for a reason, and this is it. I wouldn't be here without Tech Pixies. Obviously, I have an amazing support network around me physically, but often you can't speak to them the way you can, these so-called strangers online. And you guys have been that for me. So just do it.
Just do it. I love it. Thank you, Claire Louise.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm so grateful that Claire Louise came on to share her story. I thought it was really important to share the story of someone who'd gone through a challenge in life, particularly around the loss of a child, because we often talk at Tech Pixies about menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause. There's a lot of women in our community in the ages between 40 and 60, but we also have women in our community who have experienced what Claire Louise has experienced, or going through having babies, all that stuff. And so I think it's really important that we address the other side of womanhood. We know there's two key places where women drop out of the workplace. We know there's two key places where women have challenges in the workplace. One is with childbirth and the other is with menopause. And Tech Pixies, we want to support women who might be taking a career break due to mental health or physical health issues, or may have taken a career break due to raising children or looking after an elderly parent. So that's really important to us at Tech Pixies. And that's something that, I really care dramatically, massively about, helping women get back into work after a career break for whatever reason. but I also care massively about women staying in careers and continuing to live their best life well after their menopause years. So if you're listening to this and that sounds like something that's interesting to you, we have a couple of free training experiences. We have our boot camp experience, techpixies.com/bootcamp, and you'll be able to find out when the next one is running. We also have our vision workshop, techpixies.com/vision workshop, where you can lean into an experience of creating a vision for your life. And even if you don't have one, it's a great opportunity to lean into creating one. And as my mentor Mary says, you just make it up and then you test it out. And by just trying things out, you will realize that what that vision is for your life, and that clarity will come. And there's power that comes with clarity. So I am super grateful to Claire Louise. I'm very grateful to you, my listeners, my wonderful, incredible audience and community at Tech Pixies, who support this podcast. We are very close to 100,000 downloads. So if this podcast or any podcast resonated with you, I would really love it if you would share it with someone that you know. We are trying to reach more women across the UK and beyond. So if you listen to this podcast and you know someone that needs to hear it, please do me a favor, share it with them. Tell them about it. You can find out more about the series that we run at techpixies.com/podcast. If you want to start your own podcast, you can grab a podcast guide where I walk you through exactly how I started this podcast. And I cannot believe that we're about to hit 100,000 downloads. And I know that that'll be the catalyst for our next goal, which will probably be 1 million downloads. But let's start with getting that first 100,000. So please, if you enjoyed this podcast, if you got something from it or any of our other podcasts, please share it with someone you love, and give them the gift of inspiration. Thank you so much for listening. And of course, if you would love to leave a review, I would also love that too. And if you need to get in touch with us, support@techpixies.com is the best way to get in touch. If you have an idea for a podcast or you know someone who'd be a great guest, we'd also love it if you'd reach out to us. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.